Heartwarming nighttime tales for sleepy souls, a love that faded like the stars. The stars shimmered above the quiet town of Everbrook, their soft glow reflecting in the rippling waters of the nearby lake. But tonight they bore witness to a story not of togetherness, but of love that slipped through time's fingers, a love that once burned brightly but faded like the morning mist. The beginning of forever. Evelyn and James had been inseparable since their youth. They grew up on opposite sides of the cobblestone streets, their childhoods intertwined like vines climbing the same old oak tree. Their love was the kind that poets wrote about, the kind that felt unbreakable, destined, eternal. James was an artist, painting vivid landscapes that captured the beauty of Everbrook. Evelyn was a writer, her words breathing life into stories that carried echoes of their love. They were two souls dancing to the same rhythm, lost in a world of shared dreams and whispered promises. One summer evening, as fireflies illuminated the fields behind the lantern's light, James knelt before Evelyn, holding a simple silver ring between his trembling fingers. "Marry me," he whispered, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Tears welled in Evelyn's eyes as she nodded. "Always," she murmured, and for a time they were happy. Truly, blissfully happy. The cracks in forever. But love, no matter how deep, is not immune to time's erosion. The very dreams that once brought them together began pulling them apart. James, eager to showcase his art to the world, began travelling to distant cities, leaving Evelyn behind in Everbrook. She understood his passion, but loneliness crept into the spaces where his presence once was. Letters were written, words filled with longing and love, but over time they became fewer, shorter, colder. Evelyn poured herself into her writing, crafting stories of lovers who never let go, of souls who fought against fate to remain together. But reality was far less romantic. The warmth in James's eyes when he returned began to dim. The embraces that once felt like home became fleeting, distracted. One evening, beneath the same sky where they had promised forever, Evelyn whispered, "Are we losing each other?" James looked at her, the weight of the years settling in his gaze. "I don't know," he admitted, and that uncertainty was more painful than if he had said yes. A love that became a memory. The day James left for the final time, the air smelled of rain, as if the heavens were mourning along with Evelyn. He promised to return, but deep down she knew. Some goodbyes are not spoken, they are felt. Weeks turned to months, letters no longer came. The town whispered of James's success, of galleries filled with his art, of cities that now claimed him as their own. And Evelyn? She remained, filling pages with stories that carried pieces of their love, stories that would never be read by the man who inspired them. One evening, years later, as Evelyn sat by the window of the lantern's light, a traveller arrived, a man carrying a painting wrapped in cloth. "This is for you," he said, handing it to her before disappearing into the night. With trembling hands, she unwrapped it. It was a portrait of her, painted in soft hues of longing and regret. At the bottom, in James's familiar handwriting, were 3 words: "I never forgot." Tears slipped down Evelyn's cheeks, a bittersweet smile playing at her lips. Love did not always end in togetherness. Sometimes it lived on in memories, in the spaces between words, in the quiet ache of a heart that had loved and lost. And so, under the glow of a lantern that had guided so many souls, Evelyn whispered into the night, "Neither did I." The years that followed. Evelyn continued to live in Everbrook, her days spent surrounded by books and the stories of others. Though she had found success as a writer, a part of her always remained tethered to the past. She never left the town that had witnessed her love, never let go of the echoes of what once was. There were suitors over the years, men who admired her resilience, her wisdom, her way with words. But none of them could fill the void James had left. She often wondered if he had found someone new, if his heart had moved on, or if he too sat in some distant city, remembering her in fleeting moments of solitude. Then, one winter evening, Evelyn received an unexpected letter. It was postmarked from a city she had never been to, the handwriting unmistakably James. Hands trembling, she unfolded the parchment, her heart pounding as she read, "Evelyn, I do not know if this letter will reach you or if you will even wish to read it, but there are things I must say, even if I am too late. I spent years chasing a dream, only to realize that the most beautiful thing I had ever known was never a painting, never a gallery, never a city far away. It was you. It was the mornings we spent watching the sunrise, the nights we spent whispering stories beneath the lantern's glow. And I left it behind, thinking I had time, thinking you would always be there. But time is a cruel thief, and I have learned too late that love is not something to be placed on hold. I will be in Everbrook next week. If there is still a place for me in your life, I will be waiting at the old oak tree by the river. If you do not come, I will understand. But know this, I have never stopped loving you. James. Evelyn read the letter over and over, tears staining the paper. The weight of years pressed against her chest, a lifetime of what-ifs threatening to drown her. She had spent so long believing that love, once lost, could never be reclaimed. But now, the possibility stood before her, a choice only she could make. A final decision. The night before James was to arrive, Evelyn sat by the window of the lantern's light, staring at the flickering glow. She thought of the love they had shared, the pain of their parting, the life she had built in his absence. And as dawn broke, she rose with a decision in her heart. She made her way through the quiet streets, the familiar cobblestone paths leading her to the river's edge. The old oak tree stood tall, its branches swaying gently in the winter breeze, and beneath it, waiting, was James. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, two souls that had travelled lifetimes apart only to find their way back. Then, without a word, Evelyn stepped forward and James opened his arms. Time had stolen much from them, but in that moment they reclaimed something precious, a love that had never truly faded, only waited. A timeless love. Years passed and James and Evelyn remained together, living in the town where it all began. They grew old side by side, never again letting time steal what they had lost once before. On a quiet evening, as Evelyn sat by the window of the lantern's light, she turned to James and whispered, "Do you think we were always meant to find our way back?" James smiled, taking her hand in his. "Some love stories never truly end," he said. "They just wait for the right time to begin again." And as the stars shined above Everbrook, their love remained, eternal, unbroken, and written in the sky. The end, or perhaps just another beginning.